Hi everyone, Heather here with PersephoneReturns.com, and I just wanted to do a quick video about tomorrow's partial lunar eclipse in Aquarius because I'm looking at the chart here. I'm preparing for, my normal sort of article that I do about the full moon, and I just wanted to sort of go over this eclipse with you in a video because it's a really important eclipse. We're in eclipse season right now. There's a lot of change, a lot of transition, a lot of upheaval, a lot of anxious, sort of nervous energy floating around. And it's not necessarily an easy time for everyone, but it is a very beautiful and very magical time. And so we're going to talk about all of this in this little video that I'm doing here today. And so I'm going to get started just by and Stella's here, of course. She's my guest star, my co-star in these videos. So these eclipses, I want to start by saying that these eclipses are nothing to be feared. And I'm going to make this video a little smaller so I don't have to look at myself. Oh, I can't. Okay, maybe not. Oops. Sorry about that. I'm just trying to get everything sort of settled. Let's try this. Okay. So anyway, there are a lot of sort of fear-mongering articles and videos floating around about these eclipses. If you go on YouTube, there's a lot of apocalyptic scenarios and predictions for these next couple of months, and I don't think that those are necessarily accurate. This is going to be a big time of change and upheaval, especially for the United States, given the position of the solar eclipse that's coming on August 21st. It's visible across all 50 states. It's a total solar eclipse. It's in Leo. It's on, Trump's ascendant. There's a lot of energy there, and there is certainly a lot of change. There's a lot of new beginnings and transition that, we're going to have to work through and deal with on a global scale, and especially as a country. And but this also affects us on an individual level, and I don't think that eclipses are anything to be feared. In my experience, eclipses are very magical, synchronistic time periods where things sort of flow into to our lives really easily, and it's also a time of great endings, letting go of things that no longer serve us, letting go of things that are holding us back from moving into our truest path and our highest purpose. And that's a lot of what the energy is right now. It's the letting go, because we're coming to this lunar eclipse in Aquarius. And anytime you have a lunar eclipse, especially when it's in conjunction with the South Node, it's about endings and letting go and, cutting cords, cutting ties. It's a lot of change and transition. It's also things that are sort of coming to a culmination point in the Aquarius era of our lives. But mostly, it's about endings, and it's about sort of examining the negative side of Aquarius, the shadow side of Aquarius in the area of our chart that it falls in. And, that's something that a lot of astrologers tend to sort of glance over and ignore. And that's something that I'm trying to write about for this new article, because I was thinking and reflecting on sort of the shadow of Aquarius, because every single sign in the zodiac has a shadow. I mean, we have, Pisces, where we just had the South Node transiting through Pisces, and that brought up a lot of issues surrounding escapism and deception and self-deception and delusion, and this sort of idealistic vantage point that causes us to wear these rose-colored glasses in certain areas of our lives. And that's a lot of what was being uncovered when we came into the South Node transiting through Pisces. And now the South Node is transiting through Aquarius, and it's been transiting through Aquarius since May. And what this does is it brings up a lot of the sort of shadow aspects of Aquarius. And as astrologers, I've noticed that we sort of glance over Aquarius like it's this untouchable, beautiful sign. And when we talk about the shadow of Aquarius, we're actually giving it sort of an upside down compliment. And I think a lot of that is because astrology is ruled by Aquarius and ruled by Uranus. And a lot of astrologers are very Aquarian. And we like to, sort of talk up this Aquarian new age and how everything is so beautiful and equal, and it's this humanitarian sign, and it's, idealistic and focused on connecting with the whole of everybody, and, making good connections with friends and social groups, and, very scientific, but also very open-minded. Aquarius. And Aquarius does have all these really great qualities. I'm not hating on Aquarius by any means. I love Aquarius. I have a lot of very Aquarian friends who have their sun, moon, rising stelliums in Aquarius or stelliums in the 11th house, and they're all very great people. But there is a negative to every positive. There is a negative, just like to my sign, Virgo. The shadow aspect of that would be that Virgos can be very judgmental and very critical. And we think that we're helping people, but really we're pushing them away because we're being like hypercritical and we're being overbearing and perfectionistic and wanting to control everything and everybody and micromanage. So just as Virgo has those sort of negative qualities or qualities that can be perceived as negative, Aquarius has that as well, and that's what we're seeing right now. And a lot of that has to do with, first off, anytime we're dealing with the Aquarius and the Leo axis, we're looking at sort of caring too much about what other people think, but also putting on this facade like we don't actually care. And Leo and Aquarius both do that. Aquarius is very cool and calm, and it's very difficult to read an Aquarian person and to really know what they're feeling and experiencing below the surface, because they put on this facade like everything is very rational and logical, and they're very cool, and everything's fine, it's all good, very chill. Where below the surface there's a lot going on there, and it's definitely hard for Aquarian types to sort of connect on this one-on-one level, and that's something that's sort of being exposed right now, especially with it's sort of being in this age right now where the internet is like the big thing, and connecting on the internet via social media and via Facebook and through these videos on YouTube and different things like that. It's very disconnected and very voyeuristic. And it allows people to be very judgmental and very critical, and it causes us to really care a lot about what we're putting out on social media, or what we're putting out for our friends to see, or our families to see, or for the world to see in general. It prevents us from really sharing our hearts and connecting with other people on a deep level, because there's so much negativity and judgment and hatred floating around out there, and a lot of that is coming from these very Aquarian types of people, which we'll talk about. And so a lot of what's coming up with this lunar eclipse is this notion that we really need to start standing in our truth, following our hearts, and being more courageous and doing things because we love them. And even if it's not necessarily the popular thing to do, or even if we have people in our lives that are judging us or arguing with us, even because with Mars involved in all these eclipses, there's a lot of tension. There's potential for arguments and fights and things of that nature. And, as an astrologer, I try to pay attention to what's going on around me, what my friends and my clients, my family members, and, in general, the world at large is dealing with during these transits, because, that's important to do as well. That's how astrology came to be, is through observation of these correlations between the planetary alignment, the planetary configurations, and what's going on in real life. And so, I always make a point to pay attention to that. What I've noticed and what I've predicted from the beginning is that, people are going to have to stop caring so much about what other people think, because not everybody's going to like what you do. And whether it's, a family member, a parent, a sibling, your husband, your boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, friends, your social groups, your social networks on Facebook, we have to really let go of just giving a shit about what other people think about what we do. If we're doing something that's rooted in truth and in our hearts, and that we feel really passionate about doing, and it's this new path that's sort of new and exciting and different, we cannot let other people's judgments and opinions prevent us from doing what we want to do. And that's sort of this thing, this shadow side of Aquarius. Aquarius seems like it's very open-minded and very willing to accept other people for their differences, and for the most part it is. It wants social equality, it wants social justice, and it wants things to be fair, for everyone. But at the same time, it wants to regulate and restrict people into this little box. It's ruled by Uranus, and it's also ruled by Saturn. So there's this huge contradiction. Like, Aquarius is just a walking contradiction, in my opinion. They're eccentric but dogmatic. They're open-minded, yet they want social reform that puts everybody in a certain box where everybody is equal. You can't have freedom and true equality at the same time, because if everyone and everything is exactly the same and exactly equal, there's no freedom in that. There's no individuality. And so while Aquarian types strive for individuality and strive for freedom, they also strive for equality and social justice. And so these things are very contradictory. So we're dealing with a lot of these contradictions right now in the world at large. We have things like Facebook and YouTube and Google, these giant corporations that sort of rule the online media situation as far as the mainstream goes right now. And, they're regulating our free speech and our ability to sort of think for ourselves. You know, they're deciding and dictating what they decide is real and fake, and what they decide is relevant information based on whatever it is that they're that they're adhering to in terms of the social construct and the social norm and their own opinions, right? So it's about forcing your opinions on other people and not necessarily being open-minded to the opinions of others if you feel that those opinions are closed off, if you feel that those opinions are unfair or bigoted in some sort of way. And that's, you know, we're seeing a lot of that. And so I guess I kind of got off on a little bit of a tangent and a little bit of a rant. But besides that's a little bit beside the point. But anyway, Aquarius does have a shadow side. It has, you know, things that are not necessarily the best. And so right now we're dealing with this Leo Aquarius axis. So we might be coming into situations with family members, with people that we love, with people whose opinions we value and respect, that are sort of clashing with our own. And you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that we should force other people or try to force other people to believe what we believe or to see what we see or to feel the way that we feel about any one topic. It's more about just standing in our truth and doing things for ourselves because we love to do these things because it's our own creation, it's our own hearts. And not caring about what other people think, but not forcing them to think in the same way that we think or feel in the same way that we feel or believe what we believe. That's really important right now as well, not trying to force our values and our opinions on others because, you know, Aquarius can do that. And we're seeing a lot of that right now, and it's hurting people and it's separating people and it's very divisive. It sort of, it achieves the opposite end to which it's attempting to achieve, right? It's trying to bring everybody together in this social equality, but really what it is, it's dividing people, and it's dividing people on an individual level as well. You know, people who are differing in opinions, and we're unfriending them and sort of disassociating ourselves from them. So it's a divisive sort of mindset to have. So just be aware of that, trying not to sort of force other people to believe what we believe. And, you know, a lot of us are doing things that are very different and eccentric, and, you know, astrology is one of those things. So, you know, if you're out there and you're doing something and other people are giving you sort of backlash, that's something that's coming up right now. We really need to break free from those connections. This might be a time to actually physically break free from certain friendships and social networks that are holding us back through their judgments or through their restrictions and limitations or through their sort of their dogma. So it is a time when we can really break free from certain contracts and certain relationships with people. But, you know, at the same time, there are certain relationships in our lives where people might judge us, where people might not believe the same things that we believe, and they might make that known. And, you know, sometimes we can't break free from these relationships because it's a close family member, a very close friend. It's somebody whose opinion and friendship or relationship we value very highly. And so we don't want to get rid of those relationships. So, and, you know, in that case, we have to just, I know it's hard to not care what other people think, especially when they're people that we love, but, you know, we need to sort of find a way to sort of fake it till we make it. You know, that's kind of what Leo is about. and, you know, Aquarius as well. Aquarius has a lot going on below the surface, and they sort of pretend to be cool and calm and collected. And, you know, they'll separate and isolate themselves at times when, you know, the social pressures can be overwhelming. And so, you know, that's something that we sort of need to take on and examine at this time period, you know, faking it and pretending like we don't care until eventually we don't care. And so in addition to that, you know, all these sort of Aquarian themes and these fears of judgment and the rigidness, there's also this idea of rebellion for rebellion's sake. You know, Aquarius people can be very rebellious just for the sake of being rebellious. So just kind of be aware of that. And, you know, also because we're coming into eclipse, anytime we come into a full moon, even if it's eclipse or not, it's a culmination point. You know, it's something that's reached its culmination, its point of fullness. And now it's time to sort of start releasing and letting go and, you know, moving on into something different. And we're going to really start seeing that energy unfold right after this eclipse, because as soon as this eclipse ends, another one's beginning. And this beginning, this new eclipse is really a new beginning, right? This new moon, this solar eclipse happening in the sign of Leo. This is a huge, major breaking point, a huge new beginning. So we're having a lot of change and transition going on right now. And so, you know, there might be things that are changing really quickly, ties that need to be cut, cords that need to be cut, a lot of movement and transition, and things that might feel really chaotic and unexpected and frustrating. You know, we just had Uranus station, and then we have this full moon in Aquarius, which is the sign that's ruled by Uranus. So there's a lot of frustration, tension, potential for anxiety for people who are prone, or for people who are being triggered, you know, in a planetary sense by these eclipses. And so, that being said, the eclipses are actually a very beautiful time. You know, if you are experiencing a lot of turbulence, a lot of chaos, a lot of change, a lot of transition, if you're feeling sort of nervous or uneasy about what's going on right now, just know that we're being redirected into a place that's much more beautiful. We're being directed into our fate, into our destiny. You know, this is a time when a lot of signs and synchronicities can show up. A lot of sort of prophetic dreams, or dreams that sort of are symbolic or important in some way. This is a time when we're cutting ties in a way that we really need to, in order to move into connections with people that are in alignment with our fate and with our destiny. And we can have these very synchronistic connections with people at this time. At the same time, we can have connections with people who, you know, again, are holding us back. So it's very important to be aware, and to be, to just be careful, and to make sure that we're making the right connections. You know, you'll know if it feels right, and you'll know if it's flowing in a way that's synchronistic and fated and beautiful, or if it's flowing in a way that's sort of preventing you from moving into something that's synchronistic and fated and beautiful. And so, you know, there's going to be a lot of change. There's going to be a lot of upheaval. There's going to be things that are going to be different that we're going to have to deal with. And, you know, that's not a bad thing, because in the end, after all of the chaos settles, we're going to be in a much better, more beautiful place, in a much better and beautiful position. And we're going to be able to start working and moving from our hearts and connecting with people in a way that's more authentic and more heartfelt and more beautiful. Because that's what Leo is all about. It's connecting from the heart, you know, and that's what we're moving into. We're moving into less of this voyeuristic, detached, judgmental way of connecting with people, and more into this way of connecting with people truly, you know, on a deeper level, on a one-on-one basis, you know, interacting in real time. That's something that's going to be, you know, more and more important. And we're merging these two nodes, right? We're merging the north and south node right now, because we're at this sort of solar or lunar eclipse where both of the nodes are being activated. We have the south node being activated by the moon, which is the focal point of this eclipse. We also have the north node being activated by the sun, which is in Leo right now in opposition. That's when a full moon is. It's when the moon is in opposition to the sun, and that's what a full moon eclipse is when, you know, the moon is in opposition to the sun in conjunction with the north and south nodes. So right now we're sort of rebalancing this nodal axis. And so, you know, one of the things that might come up is, that I'm seeing already coming up, as soon as, even right before the nodes shifted into Leo and Aquarius, we're having more of these sort of interactive conversations on social media, where we have Facebook Live, where you can comment live and chat with people live and interact with people on a live platform like that. Excuse me. And it's the same thing with YouTube. YouTube recently came out with, you know, the live stream where you could chat live with people while you're watching their videos, and it's more interactive and it's more connected in that way, because we can connect with people in real time, but still be a little bit detached and have a little bit of space and connect with people on a broader scale, while still maintaining that sort of heart connection, that one-on-one connection with people, that individual connection where we're being vulnerable and genuine with each other. And so that's a lot of, you know, the good stuff that we're moving into, I think, over this next year, as we have the nodal axis transiting Leo and Aquarius. And so I'm going to get into some of the aspects for this eclipse, and then I'm going to go through real quick by sign. I'm not going to go super in depth, but I'm just going to give you all like a very short rundown of what you can expect based on your rising sign or your sun sign for this eclipse that's coming tomorrow. So first, let me share my screen so I can get us to, there we go. Okay, so hopefully what you're seeing is a little tiny me in the corner. And this chart right here that I have pulled up this is for the full moon tomorrow. It's at 11:11 a.m. in Sedona, Arizona. It's interesting numerological timing, isn't it? And so something I kind of want to point out, because we talked a lot about the moon in Aquarius and what that means, and it's a culmination point. It's a letting go of something that, you know, is begging to be let go of, because, you know, it's holding us back from moving forward in this new area of our lives. And something that I want to point out is, of course, the Mars conjunction with the sun, because Mars has been in conjunction with the sun for a while now. It's going to be, you know, through the end of the month. And so that the new moon that started this lunar cycle involved Mars conjunct the Sun, very exact, and that was at 0 degrees Leo. And I think Mars was at 1 degree, so it was within a 1 degree orb. And at this point, with this lunar eclipse in Aquarius, we have Mars in conjunction with the Sun with a 4 degree orb, so still very close. And so what this is it's tension, you know, it's aggression, it's the potential for arguments, it's the potential for people to lash out at each other. You know, there's some sort of aggressive opposition to this letting go and this culmination point where we have to really address this, where there might be quarrels, there might be fights, there might be just some sort of tension or impetus to act. But right now, the focus is on the moon, the focus is on letting go. So even though we are in the midst of taking a lot of new action in the real areas of our lives, all of us are, right now we need to focus on what it is we need to surrender, what it is that we've already mastered, what it is that has already come to completion, to culmination. And so we can sort of harvest the gifts of what we've sort of learned and gathered in this Aquarius area while sort of letting go of the things that are bogging us down. And in addition to this, you can see that the Sun is at the apex of this yod formation with Pluto and with Neptune. It's kind of a wide yod. This Pluto in conjunct to the Sun is going to come exactly later this week. So we're starting to move into that energy. We're starting to move out of the energy of the in conjunct between Neptune and the Sun, which came exact last week. And so it is forming, you know, a yod, and so having the Sun at the apex of this yod, I think, is significant because that really represents, you know, when you have the Sun at the apex of a yod and you have the Sun in conjunct, it's all about, again, judgment and caring too much about what other people think about you. It's, you know, this feeling like you have to either hide behind a role that you're playing or that you have to apologize for or justify what it is that you're doing. You know, you're doing things that are new and exciting and innovative. We're all headed down this new path that's centered in the heart and centered in our truth and centered from a place of something deeper. And we need to fulfill that and to move into that path without really caring so much about what other people think. We don't need to justify our actions to everybody else. We just need to justify them to ourselves. You know, if it's in alignment with our integrity and if it's in alignment with our truth, then that's what we should be doing. And, you know, having the Sun moving into this trine with Saturn and Sagittarius, which that'll come closer to being exact just before we have the solar eclipse. That is showing us that, you know, this new path that we're walking, this new path that we're moving into has to be in alignment with our integrity, with our long-term goals. It has to be grounded into something. This energy is being grounded into something that is bigger and broader and expansive, but it's also grounded into something that's practical and structured and in alignment with our values and our integrity, because that's Saturn and Sagittarius. It's all about doing the work, but doing work that is in alignment with our integrity and letting go of responsibilities that we have sort of connected ourselves with that are not in alignment with our own internal sense of integrity and value. And so, you know, that's a part of this sort of opposition and a part of this lunar eclipse as well. And also when you're dealing with an inconjunct involving Pluto, there's issues of power and control. So it's important to look at, you know, are you trying to control everything that's going on right now? Are you trying to plan out everything? Because that's not going to work. Eclipse season does not allow for that. You know, it's good to take action, but just to not be attached to the outcome of those actions, to not have any specific outcome in mind, which is difficult to do, I know. But if we act in that way, it's going to turn out a lot better for us, because we really need to be able to move with the energy and to flow with the changes that are coming, because there's going to be changes, and, you know, it's really a time when we need to expect the unexpected. And especially, you know, just coming into that Uranus retrograde and having this full moon in, again, Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus, it's really important that we are open and adaptable when it comes to change, and that we are able to flow with things and to integrate things that are unexpected and new. And we also have Neptune is involved in this yod, and any time that we have Neptune involved in conjunct, especially with the Sun, we're dealing with boundary issues. Neptune, in any sort of hard aspect with any of the personal planets, is always involving boundary issues and also issues of escapism. So, you know, looking at if we're having appropriate boundaries and setting appropriate boundaries with our friends, our loved ones, our clients, our coworkers, you know, whoever it may be, and just making sure that we're not sort of taking on too much of the burden of the responsibility for others, or we're not allowing ourselves to have loose boundaries to the extent where our energy gets sucked and where we don't have that life force and that vitality that we need to move forward. So it's really, you know, we need to focus on ourselves right now. It's important to help everybody else and to, you know, put ourselves out there as sort of an illustration and an example of, you know, leadership and truth and love and all of these beautiful, wonderful things. But we can't, you know, we can't help everyone, because that's what Neptune and Pisces wants to do. It's very loving and very compassionate and very idealistic, and it can cause us to sort of martyr ourselves for other people, and that's a theme of this eclipse as well. So look at, you know, if you're playing the victim role, or if you're playing the martyr in any situation in your life, or if you have boundaries that are too loose and, you know, other people are sucking your energy and you're allowing that to happen because you want to see the best in everyone. You have this sort of idealistic vision of people in your life, and, you know, that might be sort of shattered at this eclipse. You might have some sort of disillusionment where you're realizing that these people are not who they seem, that you're deceiving yourself or they're deceiving you, and you need to cut ties and cut cords, because this is a big shift and a big time of cord cutting, I believe, at least. And so yeah, so other than that, you know, letting go of caring what other people think, sudden changes, you know, control, playing roles, justifying, you know, your actions. These are all things that we're letting go of. And so now I'm going to go into, just really quickly, I'll do predictions by sign. And I'm going to just focus on the eclipse and this full moon. Let me make this small. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Aries. And so for Aries, you have this full moon lunar eclipse in your 11th house. And the 11th house is about friendships. It's about the people that, you know, we surround ourselves with. It's about social networks and social groups. And it's also about humanitarian work and charity work and things like that. And so if you are an Aries or an Aries rising, and focus specifically on your rising sign in particular, if you know your rising sign, because that's where these predictions are going to be most accurate. They'll still be accurate for your sun sign, so you should definitely listen for your sun sign as well, but this is primarily for the rising sign. So listen to both is what I'm trying to say. And so, yeah, so Aries rising people are going to have this eclipse in their 11th house. So it's a culmination point of something that was seeded long ago in terms of friendships and social networks and groups, and, you know, maybe some sort of charity organization, or you know, something that you're involved in that involves humanitarian work or connecting with people on a large scale. You know, maybe you connect with a lot of people via the internet or something along those lines, and there's something here that's reached a culmination point you need to let go of. It might be a time when you need to cut ties with groups of people, or there might be changes in your social groups and social networks where you're letting go of certain friendships in order to move into new relationships and new connections with people that are a little bit more destined and fated and in alignment with your heart and with your truth, where you can connect with people on a heart level, you know, connect with people in a way that's very genuine and very loving. And so it's getting rid of all the riffraff and all the acquaintances and all, you know, all that kind of stuff, and focusing more on the people who are truly there for you and who you truly want to be there for. And for Taurus, this lunar eclipse in Aquarius is going to be in your 10th house. And so that's about letting go of certain aspects of your career goals. You know, if you're doing some sort of work that is very Aquarian, you know, very humanitarian, or working with technology or working with large groups of people, you might have to shift the way that you do your work. This might be an ending or a big major change in your job situation. But if this is the case, and if it feels turbulent and difficult for you, you know, you're just moving into a space where you can focus more on what truly matters, which is, you know, your family and the people that you love and your roots, you know, the people that you connect with, and your own personal feeling of safety and security, and, you know, love and connection and all those types of things. So if you're doing work that's a little disconnected, detached, you know, this is a time when you can sort of move away from that and move into something that's a little bit better and a little bit more supportive of your home and family situation, your home life and your roots and the things that, you know, truly matter in the long run. Not that your career doesn't matter. And this doesn't necessarily mean your career is going to end or anything like that. It just means that there's going to be potentially some turbulence, potentially some change. Maybe it's just that you need to stop caring so much about what people at your work think. Maybe you stop caring so much about what your bosses think about the way that you're going about doing things, and you just start to do it your own way. Maybe you stop caring about what your coworkers think, or your colleagues, or other people in your field, and you start doing things in a way that's more innovative and more in alignment with your own heart. And then my dog is really wanting attention right now. So Gemini, Gemini rising and Gemini sun, you're going to have this eclipse in the sign of Aquarius in your ninth house. And so this is a time when we're sort of focusing less on the bigger picture and focusing more on the day-to-day details. Focusing more on communicating from the heart and communicating from a place of love and compassion and connecting with people in your community on a grassroots level, as opposed to sort of expanding beyond that into this like global scale. This is a really great time to sort of take a short day trip or something along those lines, you know, over the course of these next couple of weeks. It's good for short distance travel, not necessarily a good time to go abroad or anything like that, but this is a good time to sort of focus on your community, focus on what's going on in your immediate surroundings, and to let go of sort of dogmatic and rigid belief systems, because the ninth house rules beliefs. So this might be a time when you let go of certain belief systems, certain religious beliefs, certain spiritual beliefs, certain things that you've been taught, or even teachers and sort of gurus and people in your life that you look to as a source of information and wisdom, that maybe you're realizing that this knowledge and wisdom is a bit dogmatic and it's not necessarily connecting with you on a heart level. So it's time to move forward and cut ties and let go of beliefs that are not serving you anymore. And Cancer. Cancer and Cancer rising, you're going to have Aquarius in the 8th house. So that means this full moon partial lunar eclipse is happening in the hidden house of secrets and fears and deep psychological issues. It has to do with power and control for the most part. So this is letting go of needing to control things, maybe letting go of obsessions, compulsions, excessive compulsive behavior, letting go of this need for, you know, intensity. Also letting go of things like debt. Right now would not be a good time to take out a loan or to rely on other people for a source of income. Now is the time when you're moving into a space where you need to create your own wealth through your own work and through your own actions. And you can do that in a way that's very creative and very heartfelt and playful and romantic and genuine and all those types of things. But you're moving away from relying on other people as your source of power and your source of wealth. And you know, if you're someone who is married, this also rules wealth that's gained through marriage, so through like your marriage partner, through inheritance and things of that nature as well. So maybe relying less on your partner and more on your own hard work. So that's just kind of something to consider. And if you're in debt, this is a really great time when you can start to like pay off your debts and become more free and more sovereign when it comes to your financial situation. So this is a really beautiful time. And this isn't just all happening right now. You know, the eclipse reverberations last like 6 months. And I would say it lasts all the way until we have the North and South nodes moving out of Aquarius and Leo and into Cancer and Capricorn. So that's going to be about a year from now. A little more actually than a year from now. So, you know, this is playing out, this is sort of like a hyperstimulation of the North and South nodes where everything is sort of happening really quickly. It's catapulting us into a new direction that we really, really need to go on. And so, you know, it's not going to necessarily happen all at once, but a lot of change can happen all at once right now. But the end result is not going to come right this second. So that's just kind of something to also be aware of. And so moving on to Leo. Leos, this is happening in your 1st house and your 7th house. So this has to do with your own personal sense of love and compassion and wanting to be recognized for who you are and what you are in the world and your innate talents and gifts and the things that you bring out into public. And it's letting go of relationships, actually, friendships, business partnerships, close relationships. It doesn't necessarily mean that if you're in a marriage partnership or a close relationship, you're going to get divorced, but the terms of the marriage in terms of like your responsibilities and your agreements and things like that are probably going to have to change in some sort of way. This is also a time when, you know, close personal friendships, you might have to let go of certain friendships that are not in alignment with who you are and what you want to put out into the world. People that are opposing you or judging you or preventing you in some way from moving forward into your truth. This is also a time when business partnerships and relationships in terms of like clients and close relationships and working relationships, any contracts that you have that are not serving your highest good and that are not personally that valuable to you and that are not helping you on a personal level, these things are all going to have to be let go of and you're going to have to cut some ties. And this is going to be a huge major shift for anyone who has the ascendant and descendant on be a Leo Aquarius axis. This entire time period is going to be absolutely life-changing for you. So, you know, a lot of really beautiful new connections can come in as a result of whatever connections you're purging right now, because it is kind of about the purge when we're looking at this lunar eclipse. So, you know, purging relationships that are not in your best interest in order to make space for the relationships that are very beautiful and more deeply connected and that serve you. Because this is about you, Leo. It's all about you this year, and especially this eclipse season. And then we move into Virgo. So Virgos, you're having this lunar eclipse in the 6th house in Aquarius. And so right now you're kind of shifting into a phase where you have to focus less on your day-to-day routines, your day-to-day activities, and focus more inward. This isn't the time to really be super busy. So we're letting go of being super busy with like work and all these different things. Letting go of health issues too. If you've been having a lot of health issues, or if you're somebody who struggles, you know, with your health, this is a time period where we're letting go of those things. And it's not going to necessarily happen all at once, but over the course of the next year, you can start to let go of habits and let go of daily routines and let go of like sort of nutrition habits and things like that that don't serve you in terms of like your body and your health. This is also letting go of situations in terms of like your coworkers and your work situations and your day-to-day work life that, you know, where you're serving other people, but you're not serving your soul, because, you know, the 12th house is the house of the soul. It's the house of the internal. It's the house of, you know, the otherworldly and other realms. It's the house of dreams and archetypes, and it's things that are deep and hidden and secretive and go below the surface. It's a very mystical house. And so, you know, with Leo in your 12th house, you're focusing more internally, and you're focusing more on healing yourself from the inside out. Healing yourself on a soul level, so that way, you know, your body and mind and everything can be in alignment. And your daily routines and your day-to-day interactions can go a lot more smoothly after this time. Right now, they might be a little difficult and chaotic, and there's going to be a lot of change in your daily habits or daily routines. But after this is all said and done, you're going to come out of this much, much better for it. You're going to have a much better daily life. You're going to have a much better routine going. You're going to have, you know, I think better health and a better connection with your soul and who you are on the inside, because that's really what this is all about right now. And let's see, what are we doing? Libra. Libra, you're having this eclipse in your 5th house. And so the 5th house is the house of fun and play and spontaneity and creativity, and it's the things that you do because you love them. And so right now you have to focus more on, you know, your social groups and your social networks and creating better bonds with people on a broader scale. And instead of focusing on whatever it is that you love and whatever you want to do, this isn't a time to really, you know, be bogged down by hobbies and interests and different things like that. This might not be as romantic of a time for you because, you know, we're dealing with the 5th house, and that's the house of romance. If you own your own business, you know, this is a time to really maybe take the rewards that you get from your business, because the 5th house rules entrepreneurs. The 11th house is social rewards and humanitarian work and charities and things like that. So it's like taking what you've been given and the gifts that you've been given and this sort of culmination point in the 5th house area, and, you know, channeling it into the 11th house. So it's taking the gifts that you've been given, and it's taking your innate talents and gifts, and it's giving them back, you know, giving them to other people, helping other people with the money that you've earned, or with sort of the things that you've created, the platform you've created. You know, you can use your platform to help, you know, rise others up along with yourself. That would be a really good use of this energy as well. And for those of you who have kids, you know, this is a time when maybe focus a little less on parenting. Not that that's not important, and you're not going to, you know, have to do that at this time. Like, that's obviously number one. But, you know, focusing on connecting on a social level, if you've been sort of overly focused on your children and raising your children, this is a time when you really need to start, you know, hanging out with adults and spending some time really connecting with people and connecting with friends and connecting with groups of people and going out a little bit, and maybe, you know, not staying at home so much and not focusing so much on that. And then Scorpio rising. This is my rising sign, so this is a fun one. So you're having this, I wrote this down incorrectly. I don't know what it already is, but so you're having this eclipse on your IC, your 4th house your fourth house area. So this is going to be, you know, letting go of situations in your home and your family life that are bogging you down from moving forward into your highest purpose in terms of your career and your public reputation. You know, you're moving into something new and beautiful and exciting when it comes to your career and when it comes to what you put out into the world. And, you know, don't let the judgments of your friends or the people that are close to you stop you and prevent you from living your truth and from coming from the heart and from connecting with people on a broader scale from a place of sort of heartfelt sincerity. And, you know, don't let sort of your day-to-day home life or your home routines bog you down. You know, this is letting go of certain energetic agreements and certain sort of certain things in your home and family situation that are maybe not fair to you or not serving a purpose anymore, you know, and it's focusing less on your home, less on, you know, laying down roots, less on taking care of your family, and more on taking care of your soul and what you need to do in order to be successful in your career. And, you know, for all of the fixed signs, that's going to be Scorpio, Taurus, Leo, and Aquarius. This is going to be on, you know, the cardinal points in your chart. So this is going to change your entire life. So if you have the sun or the rising sign, especially in any of these fixed signs, this is a life-changing time. Everything's going to be turned upside down. You know, you're going to be thrown into something brand new, and you're going to not really know what you're doing, and you're going to have to just trust. And so instead of sort of hiding out at home where things feel safe and comfortable, where you already know how to do things and where things already sort of work for you, that's not going to work anymore. You're going to start to see that. You're going to start to see that these things are unraveling, they're not working, and you're going to be called to change in all areas of your life. You're going to have to change your personality. You're going to have to change your career and your public reputation, your what you're putting out into the world. You're going to have to change your relationships to accommodate for all of these new things that you're doing. And you're going to have to change your home situation. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have to give up your home or give up your family or anything crazy and dire. It just means that something needs to change and something needs to give in order to make space and to make room. And when it's all said and done, it's going to be very beautiful. And you're going to be glad that it happened, even if it feels a little difficult and turbulent. So yeah, moving on to Sagittarius. Sagittarius is going to have this full moon in the third house. Third house has to do with your community, your siblings, your, you know, extended family, relatives, your day-to-day communications, sort of the area around where you live, so your community and things like that. And so this isn't really a time to focus on that. It's more of a time to focus on the bigger picture. So if your day-to-day life is a little hectic, a little chaotic, it's not working the way that you necessarily want it to, you know, try to focus on the bigger picture. You know, this is a time when you're going to be coming into a whole new belief system about the world and about life, about God, about the universe, and about your place in all of that. This is also a time when you can start to learn new skills, or when certain skills that you have learned in the past are coming to a sort of culmination point where you're getting to use them and express them out in the world. And you're getting to see what works for you and what's doing well and what doesn't work and what you need to cut ties with in order to move forward. So focusing on that bigger picture. What pieces of the puzzle help to enhance the bigger picture, and what pieces of the puzzle bog you down and prevent you from achieving your highest goals and connecting with your highest goals in a way that's very heartfelt. And Capricorn. So Capricorn is going to have this eclipse in your second house. And so this could, you know, this could be money problems, to be honest with you. You know, anytime you have a lunar eclipse in the second house, you might have to let go of some resources for some reason, like something might come up that causes you to spend some more money. This is also maybe letting go of focusing so much on accumulating resources for yourself and focusing more on, you know, letting the wealth come from somewhere else, not through your own hard work necessarily. So this is a time when you can move more into making investments. You might have better luck getting approved for a loan, or you might need to get a loan because your finances might be a little tight in the second house, or you might use credit cards or something like that. You know, as long as you're able to pay them off, that's fine. This is a time that's okay. And, you know, if you are married or in a close partnership, this is a time when your partner might, you know, make more money for you, so you don't have to work as hard. So this is like letting go of working so hard for your money. And that's sort of the best possible expression of this. So you don't have to work so hard for your resources. You know, someone or something else from the outside might come in and step in and take control a little bit, you know, and help you to accumulate wealth in a different way. And then Aquarius, this is another one that's going to be big, major changes because this is on the Aquarius-Leo axis. So, you know, this is going to be huge changes for Aquarius because, you know, this is on your ascendant. And so this is letting go of behaviors and ideas and sort of dogmatic belief systems, I think in particular, that are self-serving. And moving more into things that are in alignment with partnership and relationships and connecting with people on a heart level. You know, Aquarius rising people, they tend to be a little cool and detached when it comes to the way that they relate to other people. And this is not a time for that. This is a time when you're going to really want to lean on people and to connect with people in a way that's more beautiful, more heartfelt. And you might be forced to. And that's okay, because you're going to know who is truly there for you and who you truly love and who is, you know, who your true partners and allies are in this lifetime. So if you're having a little difficulty in that area, if you're feeling, you know, anxious, or like things are not working out for you, or you feel like you're being judged, you know, or, you know, there's something that's coming to a culmination point where it's very beautiful. You know, you're getting the rewards of something that you did for yourself that was self-serving. But at the same time, you know, we have to move into a space where we're accounting for the other. And so that's what we're moving into right now. And this is going to affect, again, all 4 areas of life. Any of the big signs, that's the case. So this will be affecting your home life and your career life as well. Major changes, major transitions for Aquarius people right now. So just, you know, be aware of that, and just, you know, remain calm, remain grounded as much as you possibly can. Try not to control everything. Try not to, you know, plan too closely. try to leave some wiggle room in your plans, because, you know, they're probably going to change. And then Pisces and Pisces rising, this is the final one. You're going to have this full moon lunar eclipse in Aquarius. And Aquarius is the sign, or sorry, in Aquarius in the 12th house. Getting to the end of this, I'm starting to get tired. So in the 12th house, this is going to have to do with dreams and your inner world and your inner life and your spirituality. And so maybe this is a time when you have to, maybe you've been hibernating a little bit. Maybe you've been, you know, taking time to go inward. You know, a lot of Pisces people are very prone and apt to do that anyway. And, you know, that's important. That's good to take space, especially being a Pisces. You know, you're very empathic and very in tune with other people's energies. And if you're constantly bombarded by everybody else's energy, it's hard to know whose energy is what energy is from you and what energy is from someone else. And you can get bogged down about this negativity or even positivity, where, you know, you're lashing onto all this really positive energy that's going on around you, but it sort of clouds your vision. You know, it's very foggy, so you get these rose-colored glasses, and you can't see things for what they truly are. So you need to disconnect from time to time. And, you know, that it might be the case right now, especially, you know, with this full moon in Aquarius. This might be a really good time to take some time and to disconnect and to be alone. To figure out what it is you truly want to do out in the world, because, you know, this is sort of the last chance to do that before we come into this new moon solar eclipse that's going to be happening in your 6th house. And at that time, you're going to be very, very busy. So this is a really good time to take space and to cut ties with things that are not in alignment with your deepest truth, your spiritual values. This is a time when you can have really prophetic dreams, you can have really vivid dreams. It's important to get a lot of sleep at this time, because, again, not only is this, you know, the 12th house is rules sleep and dreams, but when we move into the 6th house, you're probably not going to have a lot of time for that. So rest up right now. And then, you know, let go of escapist tendencies, let go of behaviors that sort of allow you to disconnect from the world in a way that's unhealthy. So if you are dealing with addiction, if you're dealing with, you know, drinking too much, or escaping into fantasy, illusion, delusion, or even spirituality, that can be used as a means of escape a lot of times. Just be aware and examine what you're going through and what you're dealing with at this time. You're going to be getting a lot of signs and a lot of synchronicities that, you know, should help point you in the right direction, because this is the 12th house. It's the house of symbolism, archetype, the realms that are unseen. And so those are very active for you right now, especially for Pisces rising. And so, yeah, that's my rundown of the eclipse by all 12 signs. If you have any questions, you know, feel free to post in the comment section below. You know, and also if you want to get a more personalized reading, a more personalized reflection of what's going on during this eclipse season for you, I'm posting a link for that in the description of this video. If you sign up for my newsletter, you can get $10 off your very first reading with me, which is awesome. And yeah, it's a really good time to get a reading, because there's a lot going on right now. So it can kind of help to clarify if you're feeling really stuck and like things are a little chaotic and confusing and you don't really know what direction to go in. I would highly recommend, if not from me, from someone else, getting some sort of direction and clarity through an astrology reading at this time with all the chaotic astrology going on. But anyway, I will be back for another video soon, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I hope you all are able to use this eclipse energy for your benefit, because again, this is a beautiful, magical time. It's not just all about loss and endings or anything like that. Like, this is a culmination point. We're, you know, reaping the rewards and the benefits of things that we've created a long time ago, and it's time to really take stock of what's working well for us and what's not. So, you know, don't let go of everything. Hold on to the things that are good, and, you know, stop caring so much about what other people think about you and what you're doing. Do the things that are true to you and true to your heart. And I will see you back here soon. Bye, everyone.